Welcome to MindShifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today, of all days, is Friday, April 30th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or in the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagiin.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye, or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter in that book provides a narrative description for the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for the past almost 17 years to manage my emotions, improve my relationships, and turn any negative emotion I experience into part of that infallible guidance system that helps me improve the quality of my life. You can also download the actual tool itself. It's a PDF file. You can print it off, copy it, and use it as often as you'd like, absolutely free. You can actually go to your App Store or Google Play Store and type in the three words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon, and if you tap on that, it'll give you access to a completely free and private app. That app contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon and Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We encourage people to do that soon and often, and then give us a call with your comments or questions. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, it will let me know that you have a comment or want to get connected. And you will assist us in doing that by helping us live into our intention to be of service. Another thing we're doing this year, we are in the 120th day of the year, and we're doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons. And the lesson for today is another review lesson, a review of Lesson 109 and 110. And Lesson 109 is very simple. I rest in God. I rest in creation. I rest in all that is. The commentary reads, I rest in creation today, and I let it work in me and through me while I rest in it in quiet and in perfect certainty. I am as I was created to be. I am the creation's offspring. Today I lay aside all sick illusions of myself and let creation tell me who I really am. So at the beginning of every hour, I recite, I rest in all of creation, or if you prefer, I rest in God. And in the half hour, I can recite, I am as I was created to be, or if you prefer, you can read it as, I am as God created me. And along with reading and trying to work through the workbook lessons as much as we can, we're also reviewing Pam Grout's book, A Course in Miracles Experiment. And her title for Lesson 120 is Deleting All Mad Ideas. She quotes Sir James Jeans, the universe looks less like a machine and more like one big thought. Pam offers for morning and evening review. The first one is, I chill in truth with a capital T. And the second one is, I am as the dude created me. Pam writes, I lay aside my faith in the alternate reality of limitation, sickness, doom, and gloom. I let go of all perceptual adjustments that I made up to justify my beliefs. I joyously release any idea that interferes with love and happiness, light and peace. Today, I chill. So that's our offering from the Course in Miracles workbook lesson and from Pam Grout, her book, Course in Miracles Experiment. And we have plenty of time for conversation or discussion. We had a support group last night, and we had somebody do a worksheet or two, and we had discussion about all kinds of, dare I say, yummy stuff, because that's how one person described it at the end of the group. We also have a weekend coming. We have all kinds of thoughts that have been bouncing around in my head about the Tao Made Easy, this book by Alan Cohen that I've been reviewing again. And I highlighted a couple things to share today. One of them has to do with the he quotes the Tao. The great way covers all creatures like the sky, but does not dominate them. The sage imitates this conduct. And then he writes, embracing all elevates a society from a me-first position to a we are all in this together position. During the first session of my retreats for Japanese students, I ask each person to declare their intention for themselves for the week, and then their prayer for the entire group. Even though I instruct the participants to state their intentions in that order, a byproduct of my Western culture mindset, they always state their prayer for the group first, and their personal intention second. A fascinating study published in the journal Behavioral Brain Sciences revealed striking differences between individualistic and collectivistic mindsets. Western cultures tend to think, what's in it for me? While Eastern cultures ask, how can I help? Westerners tend to blame, while Easterners are more concerned with compassion. Dr. Shinobu, I would butcher this last name, Kitayama, at the University of Michigan, asked a group of Western thinkers and a group of Eastern thinkers to each comment on the situation of a baseball player taking performance-enhancing drugs. The Westerners focused on content and tended to fault the player for defective character. The Easterners focused more on context and considered that the player may have been subject to societal pressure to perform. These two disparate mindsets represent the difference between separatist thinking and holistic thinking. People of virtue think beyond personal interests and consider how their actions affect the whole. They are less concerned with what they can get for themselves and more concerned with how they can contribute to the community. The Tao cautions us to know the strength of a man, but keep a woman's care. Be the stream of the universe, being the stream of the universe, ever true and unswerving, become as a child a little child once more. I have had several people in my caseload and in my life in the past few days where the ability to see past the immediate has been their biggest challenge. Whether the immediate is a physical infirmity, an ache or pain, a temporary lack of funds. Here's the other offering I was going to share. Keep Hopping is the title of this section. You did not lose the Tao by falling off a cliff into a bottomless chasm one day. You slipped away from it in millions of small, steady steps. Psychologists have identified a phenomenon called drift. Experimenters placed a group of frogs in a tub of water at room temperature, and the frogs thrived. Then the experimenters raised the temperature of the water gradually, ever so slightly, by a degree every few days. The frogs then adapted to the temperature as it increased. They became so adept at adjusting to the increasing temperature, in fact, that they stayed in the water until the water became so hot that they died. Their gradual adaptation reached a fatal threshold. They had lost their ability to discern between what was life-sustaining and what was killing them. In some ways, we as a species have not evolved much further than the frogs. We have become so accustomed to dysfunction and toxicity that we fail to recognize when it has passed a critical threshold. Yet there is a small but growing segment of the population that has retained its sensitivity to what is right and is committed to thriving rather than just surviving. Believe it or not, if you're hearing these words, that small segment includes you. Alan Cohn continues to write, My client Ted's life had slipped into abysmal numbness. His marriage was in the pits, he hated his job, and he did not feel well physically. He was a real-life analog to the Joe Banks character in the humorous yet profound movie Joe versus the Volcano. Ted figured he would just have to put up with his painful predicament because, well, that's just the way life is. And everybody does it. But then one day, his 11-year-old daughter told him, quote, Dad, you're a ghost, close quotes. That got his attention. Ted realized that the only person he'd been fooling was himself. He was miserable, and he had to do something about it. He quit his job, got a divorce, and set out on a brighter path. When I last saw Ted, he was shining. The Tao spoke to Ted through his daughter, as it does through people who love us enough to be honest with us. I am not suggesting that you need to get a divorce or quit your job, although either could be an option. However, I am suggesting that you do whatever it takes to keep your soul alive. Sometimes that requires a change of circumstances. Sometimes it requires a shift of attitude. In either case, you must assume the power and responsibility to claim your maximal happiness. When the pond gets too hot, it's time to jump. The suggestion is that you bless your wake-up calls. They are the Tao benevolently reaching from reality into illusion to rescue you from further pain. The world has drifted unspeakably far from its origin and intent, and is not a worthy guide to what is right, true, and healing, or as the Way of Mastery would call it, the good, the holy, and the beautiful. Daily in our lives today, we accept greed, charlatanry, thievery, warfare, pollution, starvation, and political doublespeak as if this is just the way we were born to live. It is not the way we were born to live. In many ways, the world that we have fabricated is the precise inverse of the Tao. Every now and then, an expansive thinker comes along and yells, "People, wake up, this can't be it. There's so much more available to you." A few listeners heed the call and step onto the great way, but most people prefer to stay asleep. Illusion is enticing and self-reinforcing. Yet, no matter how thick, dark, or painful the illusion becomes, the door to redemption is open. When we are ready to admit that the dream we were sold has become a nightmare, we will wake up to the Tao and find it welcoming us with open arms. All healthy change begins with honesty. Tell the truth about what is it for you and what is not it. Be grateful for the not it as crucial redirectors toward what is truly it. Take the smallest step into a new room, and you will gain entree to vast worlds you could not see when you were clinging to the unfamiliar. Acknowledge who you are and how you want to live, and the doors of your destiny will swing open before you. So, what might be the signs or symptoms in your life that the water is getting too hot, and before you boil to death, you should take a jump? What might be a topic for discussion for the next 40 minutes that would be of use to you, that you would find nurturing and supportive, or at least stimulating, potentially stimulating a healthy pattern of redirecting your own thoughts? Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, Dr. Tim. Hey, you just read something, and right toward the end about, and I just want you to read it again if you wouldn't mind, something about sticking to the unfamiliar. Just at the end. Can you find it?
All healthy change begins with honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Take the smallest step into a new room, and you will gain entree into vast worlds you could not see when you were clinging to the familiar.
To the familiar. I heard unfamiliar, and I thought, holy mackerel, in this pandemic, I've been clinging to the familiar and have gotten a little bit agoraphobic. And I was thinking, okay, that makes much more sense. Thanks.
Yeah. When you take a small step into what's truly new, and this is coming up last night in the group, someone reminded us of Guy Finley's little adage that says, the new can't be known. Mm-hmm. And what this is talking about is take a step, the smallest step into something that is truly new, into a room that's new, and you will gain entry into the vast world you could not see as you were clinging to the familiar.
That's so right and so good.
And there are all kinds of powerful quotes about how when you advance, I'm trying to type it into the search machine to see if you I think it's a Thoreau quote. If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with success unexpected in common hours.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes making those steps, advancing confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Yeah.
This is another part of what was coming up in the discussion last night, the idea that, there's great teachers all over the place that say, there's the old adage that the universe rewards action. And Guy Finley says, you cannot take a step to test the new, to test what's true. You cannot take that step without the truth showing you whether it's right or not. So go ahead, give it a try. Make a change. Be willing to learn. It may be the perfect thing. It may lead to all kinds of goodness that you can see and hear and taste and smell right in the moment, and it might produce discomfort in that thing we call pain, whose purpose is to help my ears grow so I understand, I guess that wasn't the right thing. Okay, back up and take another step. Don't back up and sit in the room of the familiar, but step again.
Mm.
Comments, thoughts, answers, questions?
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about, and this may be true for many older people whose lives become more the circumference of their travels, just outwardly, may become smaller as they age. Just partly because, for instance, my family is talking about having a reunion on Cape Cod. Well, for us in Pennsylvania, that's a 9-hour drive. Maybe that's a rough guess. And so I'm thinking, as a much younger person, that wouldn't faze me at all, except there have been times, for instance, I was involved in a theater production in New York City, and I was living in New Haven with Tim, and I was pregnant with my first child. I had a lot of agoraphobic fear about taking trains into New York. That wasn't scary, but staying too long, there would become a kind of interior pressure to get back home. And sometimes I'd leave, and I was involved in it. It was a piece of mine, and I was involved in it. But I would say, I'm going to leave the rest to you. I'm heading home. And I would get home, and I thought, what was that about? What am I so afraid of? But I felt as if I just had to get home. And I don't know what that means at all. And yet at other times, Pam Grout talks about, I love that she says, think of those two butterflies and tell yourself you're going to see them in 48 hours. Make a little game and see what happens. Well, I've built a lot of my life around, like the story of the Emperor and the Nightingale. I heard that story and I thought, perfect. That would make such a great opera for children and kids, and I was involved in the schools anyway with music and helping them write music and so forth. And so the story just became a reality. I did a lot of work, but I had no doubt that it would become a finished piece and be performed, and that the way would be open for us. One of our singers was married to the head of music at Yale, and he said, I'll get you Sprague Hall. Sprague Hall is a beautiful place to perform with beautiful acoustics and lighting built in. And so we all trotted down there. We got school buses and all those things. So I'm thinking about the part of me that didn't doubt that those things were true, and then the other scaredy cat part of me that wanted to run home. I don't have anything to say about that except that I'm curious about that wide range of possibility. I look back and think, we did all that? How did we ever do all that? Etc. I'm sorry, Dr. Tim, because I'm not calling with I wasn't going to press one at all, except that I wanted you to reread that sentence and it got straightened out.
What you're describing there sounds a lot to me like what many people struggle with: anxiety, panic, the anxiety that at one level or another can turn into agoraphobia, with just the slightest tip of the hat. And the other thing that keeps coming to mind as you're talking is the Corinne Zupko book, From Anxiety to Love.
Yeah.
And it's just as clear as a bell as I'm sitting here listening to you talk. I'm seeing her face. I'm remembering the interview we did. I'm remembering her book. And so maybe there's something in that for you, because what you're describing is a time in your life where, perhaps even more than today, at certain times your anxiety was driving the bus.
Yeah.
And Pam Grout used her own, from early in childhood, she'd been diagnosed with anxiety disorders, and she reached a crisis in college, and her mom had been trying to get her to look into A Course in Miracles, and she wouldn't until she hit an absolute crisis point, and she finally gave in and let her mom.
Yeah, you said Pam Grout, but you mean Corinne.
Yeah, we're talking about Corinne Zupko, and she let her mom introduce her to the Course in Miracles, and she began studying it, and then she turned it into an actual process that she uses to this day in her life. That the tools that are available in the perspective, in the mindset, in the filters, in the questioning that Course in Miracles offers us, she turns them into a set of tools to heal her anxiety, which was basically driving her life. It was basically the sum total of her life experience when she was younger and when she finally crashed and burned, as we call it, in college.
Yeah. That's good. I do have that book somewhere, and that's a good idea to get that out. The other thing, the exact opposite of that, is we've all had the experience of anticipating fatigue, struggle, difficulties, roadblocks, and then we go on the trip or do the project, and I love that line. I guess it's John the Baptist yelling, "He'll make the crooked path straight," or something like that. And it's as if someone ahead of you is rolling out the carpet and pulling it flat and straight for you. And everything has enough time. There's enough time for everything. Things happen so gracefully. I've had that experience of thinking, boy, my imagination was way off on this one. This was so easy. So there's that part of it too, the mind is such a doom or a doomsayer or whatever the word is. At times, I should say my mind is, but
well, I keep coming back to the idea that we're creating, and that's one of the core pieces in this work, that I'm creating my emotional experience all the time. And so the closer I can get to that 100% responsibility for what I'm creating, then the better my life can go, especially when I've been introduced to some tools. And one of the tools that Corinne Zupko suggests is that rather than calling this force within us Holy Spirit or God or whatever, she calls it the inner therapist. And so she says, here's one of the tools she uses when she's having a thought that's leading to a negative emotion or a doom and gloom prediction. She catches it and she asks the inner therapist to look at it with her. She learned from her own experience that she didn't have so much luck just trying to turn things over to God or Holy Spirit or the inner therapist, maybe because of her own control issues or whatever. So when people would suggest, well, just turn it over to God, turn it over to Holy Spirit, she didn't have that much luck with it. So she came up with the concept of, I'm going to ask the inner therapist or Holy Spirit or God or light or love, I'm going to ask them to look at this with me because I'm not ready to give up that much control that I'm going to turn it over to somebody completely. So now it's a partnership. Maybe there's another way to look at this, which, feeds right into the Course in Miracles lesson, A New Beginning. And it says, we understand that people really don't like to admit they're wrong, so we're not going to try and force you to admit you're wrong. But anytime you're in anger or pain or fear, can we at least help you look at it and acknowledge, I don't like how I'm feeling right now. And if I can acknowledge that I don't like how this feels, then maybe I can let in the thought, I hope there's another way to look at this situation that won't feel so bad.
Right.
And that's a way into a new beginning. A new beginning of what? A new beginning of looking at this situation slightly differently, maybe dramatically differently before we're done.
Dr. Tim, you say you're talking about creating the negative, but what is it in us that can be afraid and then go do the thing and find out it was so easy? Are we the creators of that ease? That seems
Absolutely.
like just a total gift.
Well, say that again. It seems like a total what?
Gift. It seems as if somebody laid it out for us and we didn't create it. We went in there with a lot of fear and anticipation of trouble, and it was like something in the universe handed us a free banquet or something. I've had that thought and experience.
Right, but that's life.
A lot.
Okay, but that's life. You're being handed this free banquet all the time. That's the Tao. That's the way. That's the truth of your being. And if you can acknowledge the flow of life, the Tao, the way, the truth of your being, it is a banquet that you're being offered.
Whoa.
And the only thing that keeps us from experiencing that 24/7, 365 is errors in thought, what Michael Ryce has most recently been calling thought disorders.
Having a bad thought atmosphere.
Yeah. So we've had another hand go up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hold on a minute. What were you saying about getting credit for what?
I always give you credit for that thought atmosphere word because I say it and somebody says, oh, that's such a good word. Where did you get that? And I say, Dr.
Welcome, Ellen.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Tim. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
I had a question for you, Dr. Tim, that relates to what you guys are talking about, and it has to do with expectations. Because I've heard many times, and I think I've even heard you say this, that we get what we expect. And that is generally not what I experience. As Susan said, there are times when I'm expecting this is going to be really hard and difficult, and it's just the most amazing, easy, wonderful thing. And then I have the opposite experience even more often, which is like, oh, this should be easy peasy, and it's just fraught with difficulty. So I always wonder about that, about expectations, because, I don't know, my experience seems to be different from what people teach about them. Is it just me?
No, I think that part of the part of an answer that comes to mind when you ask that question is that the truth of we get what we expect is most directly applicable to our internal state, not so much applicable to our external circumstances. It does have an impact on the way things manifest in the world eventually, but it's not as immediate in the external world as it can be in the internal world. So if my expectation is that things are going to be hard, more often than not, I'm going to experience them as being hard. Occasionally, I'll be surprised, but the experience of something being difficult is an internally created experience. And the example that comes to mind to offer is the book Messages of Life from Death Row. And here's a man who's on death row for 20-some years in Texas, one of the worst places in this country to be, because it's actually, they program it to be abusive from the beginning. So you have guards that are considering daily how to make your life miserable. And you would expect that would be a horrible thing. But here's a guy, Roger McGowan, who has decided to focus on the good, the holy, and the beautiful. And if you read that book, among the messages you'll hear from this guy who spent 26 years on death row for something he didn't do, you hear messages like, love is the fundamental law of the universe. It's the reply to every situation. It's our reason for existing. It's the essence of what we are. Love is easy. Hate is the difficult role to play. And he says things like, everything that happens in life is an opportunity to learn. Life is a school of higher learning. We can refuse to be victims and take total responsibility for our lives. Even happiness is a choice to be made, whatever the circumstances of one's existence. This from a man in a 6 foot by 6 foot by 10 foot cell with a concrete bed, who is routinely subjected to abuse by his jailers when he has any contact with people at all. And he says those things that I just read to you. We can refuse to be victims and take total responsibility for our lives. Even happiness is a choice to be made, whatever the circumstances of one's existence. I don't know about you, but when I read about somebody like that, his life circumstance gives that statement high credibility in my mind.
Sure.
This is not some ivory tower philosopher.
Right, and I've been getting a lot of that from Byron Katie's books because of all of her experiences and the way that she is with no matter what, and just the way with the Course, when these lessons about, God's happiness is mine, and it really is a choice. And I recognize that, oh my God, it really is. Like, no matter what is happening, I can choose happiness, no matter what. And but I'm still, I guess, a little confused about expectations, and maybe that's just a mind game that I play with myself. I don't know. But, like, for example, yesterday I was like, my knee went out a couple days ago, and it's, I found myself, like, having a pity party for myself. And then yesterday I was like, wait a minute, I can walk. Like, not only can I walk, I have legs. Like, wow, I have so much to be grateful for. Like, and it's just like, yeah, I realized how what a victim I was playing. And it's ridiculous. Like, I can choose to be grateful for everything that I do have, and not focus on this one little issue that popped up in my life. So I get that. And just, being grateful. And I guess, I don't know, when things don't go the way, you think they're going to go, just to be grateful for whatever lesson is contained in that experience, because I do believe everything is for our benefit.
Well, whether you believe it or not, it's gonna be what it is, right? So when you're talking about expectation, then it makes really good sense to just pay attention. Oh, I believe. Okay. What you believe is going to be a very powerful force in creating your experience of life. But far better than the belief is the observation. So when something happens and it's not what you had wanted or what you would expect or what you think would make you happy, then you can step back and argue because your belief was it shouldn't be that way, or you can sit there and pour your energy into I believe it's going to get better, or you can start living from the question, living in the question, learning to live from observation.
I have a call coming in I have to take. I'm sorry. I have to go right now.
No problem. Blessings. And the idea is if I can step into the living in the question and the observation, that's far better than believing. Because my belief is going to be so limited. It's limited to what I've been programmed to. It's limited to what I've experienced in the past. And what life has to offer is infinitely more expansive than anything I could imagine or believe in.
Dr. Tim, you're onto it right now. When you're saying, what were the two words, the juxtaposed words, my belief and observation? Or also, there was another, there is evidently, when I slipped and fell and broke my wrist 3 years ago on black ice, Michael said something about I must have needed that or drawn that to myself on some unconscious level. I'm not sure all of the meaning of what he said. And certainly I wasn't dreading my walk to the park. I was very happy, beautiful new light snow on top of the ice, and the ice I didn't think was under there. So there's that sort of unconscious just moving along, and then wham, you're on the ground. But my experience many times of dreading something or fearing something, even a little bit, and thinking it's going to be kind of challenging and I'm going to be pooped. And then it turns out to be smooth and wonderful, and there's plenty of time for everything. It's like this gracious gift that Is it just, are you saying that at base I think the universe is friendly, but I just don't know I think that? I mean, you are talking about different levels of anticipation and belief.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And the words I'm using to talk about it may have absolutely no relevance to the meanings you have in your mind for those words. So,
yeah.
So I was just coming back to right before you said that I'm right on it. I was just coming back to the idea that this tiny little 9-bit mind that I have in my brain that I have to use to try and navigate the world and make sure my zipper is up and that my shoes are tied and that there's enough money to pay off the things that I've said I want to own, etc. That tiny little 9-bit mind is not, I don't know, what did I say last night? I said something in the group last night about how there's an entire spiral of galaxies. There's a wisdom, there's a mind, there's an intelligence in the universe that's like not just one galaxy, but an entire spiral of galaxies. And there's my little dust mite sized brain. And I'm arguing that what my little dust mite sized brain thinks is right and should be happening is better than the way the universe itself is unfolding this moment. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, that's great. And go ahead.
No, I'm done. That's great. And you know what?
You're basically saying that all we need to do is trust, because the universe will meet us in the most loving and friendly way.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about trusting. I'm not even talking about trusting. I'm talking about just observing. Observing.
Okay. Say more.
Well, if I'm trusting, then I'm putting all of this mental, emotional energy into a certain outcome.
Whoa.
Right? And I'm fearing some negative outcome, and I'm trusting that something better is going to happen, etc. And I'm saying, it just at a whole different level, like an entirely. Have you heard these people talk about 3-dimensional, 5-dimensional, 8-dimensional beings, all this other stuff? I'm talking about something from another dimension. I'm talking about just an entire different dimension of stepping back and thinking. What comes to mind is the I don't know mind. I don't know. I'm not going to trust it's going to be better. I'm not going to trust it's going to. I'm not going to trust that it's going to be better. I'm just going to recognize I don't know.
Okay.
Right. I trust it's going to be better and it's all going to work out. Yeah, if you need to do that, go ahead and play that game for a while. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know. The mind that I'm using to try and comprehend the universe is like a dust mite compared to a spiral full of galaxies.
Okay, but just stay there for a second, because what you're also saying is you're saying it's good. Somehow it sounds as if below all that, observe. What are you going to observe? You have to be open to great things, don't you? I mean, can they happen without your being in the mindset for them? Or even, it's a kind of a very, very relaxed allowing that you're doing, or something that has no angst in it at all.
Right. That's the idea. So in the Tao Made Easy, he's talking about allowance and surrender and humility. In the Way of Mastery, the 5th lesson, it has allowance, surrender, and humility as the 5 keys to 3 of the 5 keys to the kingdom. This is just rock solid, ancient spiritual wisdom. What we do when we resist with our minds is the primary mechanism that creates the vast majority of our suffering. So when life takes the left-hand turn, if I can step back and observe, then I can be more present in the moment, and whatever I might have in terms of resources to bring to bear, I can bring to bear, and I can participate in life and make it be better in whatever way I can. But if I'm believing or trusting that it's going to get better or should be matching some picture in my head, I'm going to be resisting the flow of life as it unfolds.
That is a new thing. Okay.
That's a new thing?
That's really nice, yeah. Everybody else probably knew this, but that was good.
Well, go back and take another listen to, or read the Lesson 5 from the Way of Mastery, and get tuned into this desire, intention, allowance, surrender, and then humility. And the humility is the recognizing that this brain in my head that I think is so powerful and it got me a doctorate and it blah, 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 is like a dust mite compared to an entire spiral of galaxies. It's nothing. And it can't even begin to conceive of the magnificence of life that's unfolding around me, or that I am as an energy system participating in it, and yet it wants to believe and trust that it knows best.
I never thought of this, but when Michael talks about the definition of humility, he's doing just that, but I always thought of it as addressed to another person. I see that person, I see the highest and best in that person and operate from there. And you're saying you just made it global and universal and cosmic. The whole universe you see with that kind of, as see the highest and best and operate from there for the whole universe.
Yeah, for yourself and everything you encounter and everyone you encounter. Because there is only the energy of creation expanding. There is nothing but God's light, love, the energy of creation. And we can create within our minds and these illusory worlds that we build an experience of something other than or less than or more abusive than. But there really is only life expressing.
And it's good.
It's good in the sense that it is perfect because it is what it is. Not it's good in terms of I have a definition for good and a definition for bad, and this thing fits my definition and that thing doesn't. Good in terms of if it exists, it's part of creation, and it's whole and complete.
Okay, you got it there. Okay, I got it. Good is the wrong word then. And I know they use that in the Old Testament in Genesis, and God saw that it was good.
Well, but now listen.
Yeah.
Hold on. Listen.
Okay.
Who's they that use it in the Old Testament? Right? So just stop for a minute and take a breath and understand. I have been programmed from a Western mind in an English language that they said, and God saw that it was good. But none of that happened through a Western mindset or the English language.
All right, I get
Remember, Jesus never spoke English. What? He didn't say that? No, because he never spoke English.
Okay, I'm trying to find other words for the...
Oh, but no, forget the words. Just understand this. Forget the words. Soften away from the words.
Okay.
And just understand that back then there was ancient wisdom that was being passed down and written about in languages that we can't even comprehend. And some of the parables, some of the stories were hey, look, humans, introduced this whole concept of good and evil and created a lot of suffering with that.
Yeah, I get it. So could you use the word, it was well, or it was okay, or it was safe?
It was. It is. Just, it is. Ah, I see it is. I observe it.
It is. Okay.
I allow, I accept, I surrender, because it is. Right? You know that old adage, be still and know God is? Be still and know life is. Know that all of life is only this thing that people use words like God to try and compress or compose or contain. And there's no containing it.
Okay, you just helped me uncover. I keep wanting to go back to, okay, I'll get rid of the word good. How about safe? I'm putting things on it. I see that. It just is. It just is.
It is.
But somehow when it is, well, anyway, my experience has been that what is has been wonderful for the most part, much smoother than I would have thought possible. Am I just lucky, born under the right star? I mean, I'm still wanting to say I'm safe somewhere along the line. Yeah, okay. I'm just looking at that.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Right. And why would I want to say I'm safe? Why would I even have to have that concept unless I already had the opposite? I'm in danger.
Right.
I have fear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In terms of these concepts, you can't have one without the other. You keep wanting to say you're safe, and I keep wanting to say, no, you just are. Life is safe. No, life just is, right? And in the moment where I try to say it's safe and it's loving and it's warm and it's going to be great, I'm living in the fantasy world. I'm not observing anymore. I'm not in touch with the truth. So you've done it again. You've taken us all the way to the end of the hour. Thank you for chiming in a little earlier today. And thank you, as always, for your comments and questions. And I wish you a fabulous weekend. And
thanks, you too.
Michael and Jeannie will be here for the second hour, and we'll be back again next week. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. I hope you have a good weekend as well.
Thanks.